Okay, so now you get to UJ. How is the culture shock? Like, did you enjoy it?
my
Were you with
goodness.
some of your friends? Tell us about that.
Wow. Culture shock, yes. I honestly, I struggled a little bit in my first year really to integrate.
Okay.
I felt overwhelmed. Because in high school I wasn't necessarily your timid, like behind the scenes type of character. I was doing well academically. I was outspoken,
Yes, you're the
class
girl.
rep, all of these things.
Yeah.
So you get to varsity now, and everybody there is like that.
Sure.
And more.
The competition is tough, eh?
You know what I mean?
It's the A's of the A's.
Look,
You move from being the best with your 95 to meeting people that get 100 and everything.
I'm telling you,
Sure.
people were so self-expressive and, bold and, so I felt really overwhelmed, and I kind of wondered if I really belong here.
Oh.
I did struggle a little bit, and it reflected in my studies too. I did well, but there was one module, right?
Which one was it?
It was called English 1C, 1D.
Why were you guys... You know what, ne? I did English 1A and B, right? And then I know a lot of the people complained about English for low and that English 1C, 1D. But I thought ours was harder because we did literature.
Oh my goodness! I would have loved to do literature rather. I would have loved to do literature rather. That module,
it rocked you.
Yeah. And when you walk into something with a negative energy, right? You
Sure.
have some sort of a preconceived notion about what it is or its level of difficulty.
Sure.
It transcends. It translates
becomes,
rather.
yes.
So I heard about the module after having chosen it.
Oh.
And people were like, yo, this module is difficult. So I took that, internalized it.
Yes.
And look, it translated.
And I'm sure you just so stars
Yeah.
because now you're running around with that attitude of
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
things are the module
Yeah.
is difficult.
Yeah, I got there and I had to write a sub for that module.
Really. And I'm sure you thought to yourself, a whole of me, it's English.
Oh my goodness. It was so
It's
bad.
always a shock. I think what almost sent me to ER in first year, because I also had the same issue.
Yeah.
Like my transition was very hard because high school, I was like top of my class,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And all of these things. And, you're a star. I was part of Orange Carpet, all of these nice things. And then you get to uni. Things seem a little bit easy. You take things for granted. And then for me, I meet politics.
Okay.
Yes. And then I'm like, what's going on in this class, right? And I remember I got my first 40% there. I was like, what? What is going on? I fought and I fought.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, at the end of the semester, I ended up getting a distinction because for me, it was like I felt triggered. I'm like, what? This is not me.
Yeah,
like
you
it
revenge
shakes
right.
you.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
it
revenge
shakes
right.
you.
Yeah. Same for me. So for me, it was with the exam.
Sure.
That was my first 40 then. So I qualified then to write the sub.
Yes.
I find out the day before the sub that I'm writing tomorrow.
What?
Right? So, if your fees aren't paid, you get blocked, right? So you
Yes.
can't see your results.
Communication and all of that.
You can't see your
Yes.
results. You can't see if you have any sub. So the only way we could do that was to check the timetable.
Oh, then
you
it
had
would be
access.
there.
Yeah. So if your timetable was still clean, you're good.
Then it means you good.
If you have something there, you have to go right.
Sure.
So the day before, I get this feeling, man. Check your timetable.
And I feel like you always know when something didn't go right. Hey, there's always this internal thing that
Yeah.
says, yeah.
Yes, I got that. And I checked the timetable, and here's this English 1C, 1D,
Hey,
guys.
wow.
So I study that night. I'm like, there's no way.
Yes.
And I go write the paper. But unfortunately with subs, once they
They
get to
cap.
50,
Yes.
so you don't even know if you did well enough to get a distinction. You just leave it at that. But I had to forgive myself for that.
Love
Because
that.
I was really beating myself up. I was like, my parents are paying all of this money, and I'm here failing a module in my first
Yes.
year. What am I doing?
And
a
why
whole
would you fail
me.
English? It's
Do you know what
always
I
like,
mean?
yeah.
So I really did beat myself up for it. But after writing that exam, I really did have to forgive myself and say, fine, now integrate,
Yes.
now transition properly. And I really have to commend the tutor system at UJ too. Again, not a paid promotion.
gonna be like, I carry you guys were tutors. So what are you gonna say?
But look, it helps so much.
It does.
It really does to sit with somebody who's also still a student. I had a really strict tutor.
Who's your tutor?
Oh man, I've forgotten her name now. Oh, it starts with a T, but I really have forgotten it. She was strict, right? She would work me to the bone, and she told me, please, you don't come here and relax. I can see what you have in you. She was dragging that potential out of me and dragging this and getting me to shake off this feeling that I'm not
you're a
good enough.
victim,
Yeah.
not good enough.
Yeah.
all of that.
And she did. She really did.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so now your first year, you get over the whole feelings of being overwhelmed and all of that. How is then the rest of the degree? How did you find it?
Now I find amazing friends.
I love that.
To this day. We were just really there and we were having fun. Now I really start to get to fall in love with this environment.
Sure.
So I had amazing friends. We would assist each other throughout. So the rest of first year just was kind of smooth sailing.
Okay.
I could say, yeah, I was having fun now.
All right. Love that. I think many times we always, we live in a society where people don't encourage friendships.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you get to university, take your time and pick good quality.
Yeah.
You will grow with those people.
Yep.
I'm still friends with my friends that I've been with since first year.
That's beautiful.
We've seen each other grow. We've seen each other fall apart. We've seen each
Yeah.
other get jobs, get admitted, and all of these things. And it's always a beautiful thing to experience, to actually see people grow and become and have a good time.
Yeah.
So I really do encourage, have friends in uni. Don't isolate
Do
yourself.
not. No man is an island.
Sure.
And society these days is trying to push this concept of individualism.
Yes, and boundaries, guys. Some things are not boundaries. Hey, you're just trying to put yourself in a box.
It's like, honestly, guys, you can't live alone.
You can't.
You really cannot.
can't.
We do have to lean on each other at some
Sure.
point. So I really do share the same sentiment. Definitely encourage friendship.
Yo, guys, now that you say that, it stresses me so much. People want to cancel their relatives. People want to, just give people grace.
Give people grace, man. Of course, you do have to have a limit.
Yes.
You can't constantly be laying yourself down to be walked over.
Sure.
But
Understand,
don't immediately. We just
when I cancel culture, we know you're Miss Cancel Culture. No, guys, have humility.
Yeah, I love that.
Have humility. Okay. So now in university, first, third year, did you know anything about articles, your options after your degree?
Yes.
Okay.
I did. Fortunately, they do the whole first year seminar. And they don't really unpack the different careers until you do the legal profession in Introduction to Legal Studies, right? That's when I guess, and it's only later on in the year where you kind of just see what the differences are. So I did have knowledge. I did know there's advocate, there's attorney, what the differences are. Do I want to do it? I'm not sure yet.
But you see now, I feel like also in as much as you had that information, it almost feels as if we are boxed as lawyers to become advocates and attorneys. It's almost as if there's this agenda pushed by institutions, places, people to say, be an attorney, be an advocate, be this. Because why couldn't they tell us about being a lecturer? They're standing before us. And
that's exactly
they're
right.
lecturers.
That's
why are they not
exactly
telling
right.
us about compliance, legal secretary, paralegals?
I love that.
There's a lot of things in practice that you could do. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're told about attorney, advocacy, and then you were not sure about it.
I wasn't sure which one I wanted to do.
But you were prepared to pick.
Yeah, if any, right? But I remember I probably was in second or third year when I saw these lecturers and I'm like, this is also a job,
Yes.
It looks like something I could do, right? I remember telling my friend that now I want to be a lecturer. Mara, it's only later on in life because number one, you don't have an example. There is no young black female who's a lecturer. There was only one. And she came in as a guest lecturer in our first year, right? So you're not, there's no person who looks like you who you can use an example to say, I can do this too. So the ones that I do see are older. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I have to go practice first then.
Yes.
And then come back. But this I want to do.
Yeah. And there is that stigma also to say you have to go to practice. I mean, it's a good thing that maybe you've got practical experience, whatever the case may be, but we are here to decode that. You don't have to.
You do not have to. And I you know, that perception does in fact exist. You know, people would kind of not almost look down on colleagues that did not go into practice. Not only other colleagues, but students too. It's like if you've never done practice, then you don't know the law. And that's not true.
And it's not. You know, when you say that, it's so funny. I'm part of. I'm not gonna say victim, but for a lack of a better word, I'll say victim of that.
Okay.
So had I known that I could be a lecturer right after getting my LLB, LLM, and stuff, I could have went through the. I was not going to look for articles.
Yeah.
But I looked for articles under the presumption that everybody's older.
Yes.
There isn't a tangible representation of a 24-year-old lecturer or 23-year-old.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I have to go to practice. I have to gain all of this knowledge. I'm not thinking about the fact that at the end of the day, they can go to practice and all of that, but they still need to comprehend the textbook, the curriculum, and all this. You will get the training that you require for a position that you apply for. So I think I was also on that. Then I ended up resorting to say, oh no, I'll be a lecturer when I'm older, you know, after everything. It's almost as if I did, it'll be my last thing. That's
exactly
But now
right.
I'm also going back to a part where I'm like, you know what, this is an equally important job. This is a job I can do in my 20s. This is something that I can be passionate about and grow in. So, yeah. So, okay, then you're like, I want to be a lecturer.
Yes. So again, this is only something I told myself I'd do later on in life. So I get the opportunity while I'm doing my master's. Okay. So
So wait, before you go into your master's,
Okay.
when you get done with your LLB, so you didn't apply for articles. What was your plan? You just said, I'm
I
going
wanted to do my master's.
Okay. And then you're like, so during your master's, you're a full-time student.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm a full-time student. So here's what happens, all right? And you know,
and you tutored us, maybe.
I did tutor
Yes.
for a short period of time though.
Yes. So how did you, was it part of the plan to be a tutor and all of that? Wow. Okay, tell us.
I think I'm probably a good example of let go and let God.
Okay, love that.
And I mean, I look at this in hindsight now. It seems to me that God was just saying, relax, let me lead you.
Yes.
And I didn't know that I was relinquishing control and saying, God, lead me. But in hindsight, I look at it and say, hey, man, like I was taking risks. I didn't apply for articles and all of this stuff. All my peers were doing it. And, you know, but at the end of my LLB, I applied to do my master's in labor law, fine. And I get there. After registering, one of the faculty officers looks at my academic record. She says, hi, you should be a tutor, Muswena.
Okay. Out of the blue.
Yeah. She hands me forms. She's like, apply for tutorship, apply for, I think it was library assistant or something of that nature. I'm like, okay.
So post that, you had never applied for any of those vacancies?
I did not have the confidence.
Wow.
In my undergrad, I had extreme self-confidence issues. And this is somebody who was really confident in high school, get to varsity, I am overwhelmed. I don't feel like I can compete with...
Sense of belonging.
Yeah, I don't feel like I possess what my peers possess to be tutors and to do all of these roles.
Sure.
I would convince myself not to apply and say, you're going to get rejected. Okay. It's extremely horrible.
You know what's funny, ne? And now that you say, I remember you actually did tutor us briefly. I think I was in my final year for labor. When we saw you, we thought you were somebody that was tutoring like business, the other Kosoweto campus, ne? Like that department. Yes. We thought you were already tutoring. So it's almost as if you have that aura of teaching and all of that. But obviously, because like you're saying, you're only seeing now in hindsight to say, you know what, maybe God was just pushing me through and leading me to this path. I didn't even know that it was like an impromptu thing. It really was.
Look, she just said apply. And I applied. They called me in for an interview day after interview, they call me, they're like, come sign appointment forms, what. I'm like, wow. Okay, they tell me how much I'm getting paid. I'm like, from zero.
To hero.
From zero. I'm like, okay, so I do this, right? But I was so they appoint me as a tutor for the law of contract.
Yes.
I'm with law of contract for a month until my master's supervisor says, I want to motivate for you to be an assistant lecturer. Okay?
Oh, out of the blue as well.
Yes.
What?
She calls me. I'm in Soweto chilling. And I remember it was the weekend. I just get a random call from my supervisor. I panic. She's like, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. She's like, okay, so I want to appoint you as an assistant lecturer. Would you be interested? I'm like, okay, what does an assistant...
And did you have like a relationship with her?
Yeah, she was my... not only my master supervisor, but she was also teaching the coursework for labor law.
Okay, so you had
So I did have
interactions.
slightly, yeah. She'd see me in class and everything. So, but like she taught us in final year too, but she didn't know me at that time. Why? Because I was really not confident to raise my hand and answer questions,
or say
even
things.
though I know things. You know when you know things and it sits here and just talk, but you just can't.
You know what it feels like? Also, it feels like because you've been holding on for so long, then God sends you into the lion's den, like having to lecture hundreds and hundreds and all of that.
Yeah, it's like you've been quiet. Please talk now.
Yes,
Show
it's time
people
for you to speak. So you get this call.
So, and I'm like, definitely, I'll do it. But I process afterwards. I'm like, okay, that means I'm going to be a lecturer.
Sure.
Okay, cool. I can do this. And I remember, hey, man, you said you wanted to do this job, but you thought you could only come back when you're 50. You're 24 now.
Yeah.
And it's coming to you. It was really an amazing moment. I told my mom, she was what? Like, you're going to be a lecturer? Are you serious?
What a tangible representation.
It was absolutely amazing. And I start the job. I had to obviously resign from the tutorship. I was only a tutor for a month.
Okay.
With law of contract. And also, I'm very grateful to that course facilitator for law of contract, Professor Michelle van Eyck, because there's one time when she asked me, you have to teach this class.
Really?
Like run a tutorial for the whole group. Okay. And law of contract is a huge module.
Yes.
Like you have tons and tons of students in there. So that was my first time standing in front of a huge group of students. And afterwards,